Welcome back to Letters from Rebellion, a space for the fears that we carry, the choices we avoid, the conformity we praise, and the chains we kiss. Reflections on courage, habits, motivation, and the inner rebellion that reshapes who we become. If you're not capable of becoming dangerous, you will never be capable of choosing who you are. Every time I tell this to someone, they feel uncomfortable or they get scared, simply because it collides directly with the way that they have been trained to think about being good, about growth, about morality. We have been taught over and over that being calm, controlled, and reasonable and agreeable is safe. It's the highest form of maturity. We've been told that strength means restraint, that power is something suspicious, something that needs to be softened before it causes any harm. But in my opinion, this way of life does not survive with the contact of real life. Because what most people call virtue is often just lack of capacity, and lack of capacity doesn't make you good. It makes you harmless. And harmless people, they don't choose their lives, they inherit them, they comply with them, they explain themselves inside them. And when things collapse, they don't respond, but they just absorb. They are like a sponge or like water. No color, no taste, and no smell. Harmlessness produces mediocrity. People follow the safest interpretation of success. You can see it statistically. People will follow the most common definition of happiness, the most socially approved rhythm of ambition. They don't choose badly, but they choose predictably because that's how they have been trained on. Look at their careers. They won't offend. Their opinions, they don't isolate. Even their desires, they stay within what's already socially accepted. Mediocrity survives by avoiding friction, and slowly it trades depth for comfort. That's what a borrowed life looks like when you stop romanticizing it. But here's the thought for you, or actually here's the move for you. Unleash the monster within. Facing your inner monster is the rebellion in its most honest and purest forms. And I'm not talking about the kind of rebellion that waves flags and borrows slogans. I'm talking about the kind that happens privately. History is full of so-called rebellions, but who just turned out to be agenda swaps. New rulers, new slogans, but the same obedience. Real rebels, they were different. They did not just oppose systems, but they confronted the force inside themselves, even though they know that it could destroy comfort, it could destroy their reputation, it could destroy safety, even their identity. Think of figures who broke the moral orders. Think of Socrates, Galileo, Nietzsche. Their rebellion was not a parade. They never even called themselves rebel. Their rebellion was contact with force that most people avoid. They have let their monster out long enough to see what it could do, and they paid the price for it. I met mine early, long before I had an interpretation for it or a language to describe it. But what I know that I had a resistance to systems that asked obedience without meaning. Schools, social rules, politics, authority structures. I felt the pressure to conform, but also I felt the pressure to refuse at the same time. And that refusal was raw. It got me into trouble. It made me difficult. But it also taught me something early. That there is a force in me that would not accept a life handed over to me as default. I could either learn how to command that force or spend my life trying to suppress it so I could fit in. And I realized soon enough that suppression was not an option. And this was my first lesson. If you ignore your inner rebellion, it's not gonna disappear. It just turns against you. The monster that most people fear is rebellion itself. The part of you that refuses to keep living a borrowed life once you see it for what it is. And rebellion is the capacity to end something, the capacity to cut ties, to withdraw energy, to destroy structures that no longer serves the purpose. And that capacity, it scares the modern culture. If you don't know, now you know. Because modern culture depends on predictability. It depends on people staying manageable and cooperative, even when the cost is their own erosion. So rebellion will get framed many things. It will get framed as being chaotic, as immaturity, as aggression, as ego, as instability. They will frame it anything to keep you from touching it. Even creativity itself comes from it. Not creation as self-expression, but creation as necessity. When the old form can't carry life anymore, something has to be broken for something else to exist. Nothing new arrives without destruction. If you remove destruction from the equation, you don't get peace, but you'll get stagnation. You get decay dressed as stability. This is why people who refuse to meet their own monster, they often live lives that are soft, lives that collapse under pressure. Not because they are bad people, but because they never developed the capacity to respond when force was required. They rely on hope where action is needed. They rely on patience where endings are required. They rely on explanations where consequences would rather work better. And life does not reward that. At some point, reality applies pressure. Relationships will test boundaries. Systems will demand compliance. And circumstances, for sure, it will force decisions. And when that happens, the monster will come out anyway. So if you've never met it, or if you've never had the courage to meet it, well, let me tell you, it's not discipline. It will arrive sideways, a resentment or self-sabotage. That's the cost of suppression. Becoming the monster doesn't mean that losing control and starting to destroy everything around you. No, it means that developing the capacity. It means that having access to the part of you that can destroy when destruction is needed, instead of pretending that staying gentle will solve a structural problem. The real danger isn't having a monster within you. The real danger is being unaware of it. The real danger is being not courage enough, instead of saying a coward, to face it. But the good news is, once you are aware of it, and once you have the courage to face it, you will be able to learn how to tame it. And you do that by knowing the reach of your force and choosing how to apply it. It's knowing what you are capable of and refusing to let it go wild. And it doesn't happen through suppression or moral lectures. It happens through exposure and repetition. You learn how much pressure a situation actually needs instead of just guessing. And over time, the monster stops acting as an impulse, and it starts responding to judgment. This is how you command your monster. You don't kill the force, but you train it through use, through consequence, through restraint earned in reality, not some imagined theory. An untamed monster will burn indiscriminately. A suppressed monster will turn inwards. But a tamed monster will act with precision, and that precision is what people mistake for character. Character is not softness. It's not just pure or raw strength. It's reliability under pressure. It's the ability to hold force without being ruled by it. It's to apply it when necessary and withhold it when it isn't, so you feel its sovereignty. This is where rebellion matures. Early rebellion is a reaction. It pushes back, it resists, it breaks rules for the sake of breaking them, and that phase is necessary, but it's incomplete. Mature rebellion knows what it's rebelling for. It doesn't shout, it doesn't need a permission, but it just moves in harmony. When rebellion is tamed, people will treat you very differently, and people will be maybe sometimes intimidated by you. Not because you threaten them, but because they sense capacity. They know that there are consequences to crossing certain lines. They know that you won't explain endlessly. They know that you won't tolerate slow erosion. And for those who get intimidated by you, well, it's rarely because you became aggressive. It's because there is a higher standard that entered the room now. There is someone who does not negotiate endlessly, someone who is not willing to play small, someone who's not willing to dilute his opinions and decisions. And this exposes the mediocrity that others have lived or learned how to live with it. And that exposure feels threatening at some point. It disrupts the unspoken agreement to keep expectations low and consequence distant. And the discomfort doesn't come from your force. It comes from the gap between what they tolerate in themselves and what they are suddenly standing next to. This is the part that people are always afraid to say it out loud. The world always have been, will be, and has respected power more than innocence. That's how it has been over thousands of years. Power is always respected more than innocence. Naivety does not protect you. It will invite damage, while capacity will create caution. That doesn't mean that you go and start harming people. I'm not calling that. It means that you become impossible to ignore. Life will continue to test you. New stages will demand new force. New responsibilities will expose new weaknesses. And the monster that you tame now won't be the last one that you meet. The difference is that once you have faced it, you will stop being surprised by yourself. You become accountable, and accountability is the foundation of real freedom. When you own your rebellion, you will have the ability to end what needs ending, so something truer can be built. A refusal to live someone else's scripts once you see the cost. If you never become capable of destruction, you will never be capable of protection. You'll never be capable of creation, neither capable of leadership. And that's not a threat, that's just mechanics. And life will make sure that you learn it one way or another. And once you have met the monster and learned how to command it and how to tame it, there is something that will be unavoidable for you. You will stop mistaking stability for strength, and you stop fearing breakdowns the way that harmless people they do. When power is real, collapse isn't a scandal. Collapse is a feedback. The world treats failure like a defect, something that you need to avoid, something that you need to explain away or to make it soft or turn it into a lesson before it gets uncomfortable. But collapse always has been part of strength, how it's built. Structures that never get tested, they will always stay fragile. Lives that never break, they stay theoretical. The question now isn't how to avoid falling. The question is, how hard are you willing to rise after every fall? This is where we will go next.